A corrupt judge sits on a throne of polished mahogany, laughing at an elderly black woman fighting for her home. He sees a confused old lady in a worn-out church dress, a nuisance to be swatted from his courtroom before his lunch reservation. But that judge, a man who mistakes his robe for a crown and his gavel for a scepter, has just made the biggest, and last, mistake of his career. He thinks he is the law. He is about to meet the woman who taught the law to the men and women who sign his paychecks. This is the story of how one man's bottomless arrogance led to his complete and total destruction. The courtroom is a kingdom, and Judge Marcus Thompson is its undisputed king. It is not a place of justice. It is a theater for his ego, a stage where he performs his power, and the people below are merely props for his daily drama of contempt. The air itself is heavy, thick with the ghosts of past injustices and the suffocating scent of cheap polish and fear. Sunlight tries to force its way through the tall, grimy windows, but it seems to give up halfway, dying in dusty shafts over the worn wooden pews. Judge Thompson surveys his domain from on high. He is a man carved from granite and prejudice, his face a permanent sneer held in place by jowls of self-satisfaction. His robe is not merely black, it is a void, absorbing all light and hope from the room. He wears his arrogance like a suit of armor, impenetrable and gleaming under the fluorescent lights. Today's prop is an elderly woman standing before him. Her name is Eleanor Vance. She stands small and alone at the defendant's table, a tiny, stooped figure dwarfed by the grandeur of the oppressive chamber. Her hands, wrinkled and knotted with age, tremble slightly as they grip the worn edge of the wooden table. She wears her Sunday best, a simple floral dress faded from 1,000 washings and a small, pillbox hat that sits slightly askew on her head of silver hair. She looks, to the casual observer, like someone's grandmother who has wandered into the wrong room. This is exactly what Judge Thompson sees. And he licks his lips like a wolf spotting a lamb that has strayed from the flock. "Let's get this farce over with," Judge Thompson booms, his voice a gravelly avalanche that crushes all other sound. "Mr. Sterling, you represent the plaintiff, Omnicorp Development." A sleek man in a suit that costs more than a car rises smoothly. "I do, Your Honor." And the defendant, Thompson says, not even bothering to look at his papers, is Eleanor. Just Eleanor. He glances down at the woman with a look of profound boredom. A young, terrified woman in an ill-fitting blazer stands up, shuffling papers. "Eleanor Vance, Your Honor. I'm Sarah Jenkins from the Public Defender's Office." Her voice is a mouse squeak in a lion's den. Thompson lets out a short, barking laugh. "The Public Defender? Of course. And what is Eleanor's complaint today? Is she lost? Did she miss her bingo game?" The courtroom sycophants, the bailiffs and clerks who feed on the scraps of his power, chuckle on cue. Sarah Jenkins swallows hard. "Your Honor, this is a motion to dismiss an eviction proceeding. Omnicorp is attempting to seize Mr. and Mrs. Vance's home based on a fraudulent lien." "Mrs. Vance," Thompson corrects, his voice dripping with condescension. "Let's try to use the proper honorifics, Counselor, if you can manage it. Is there a Mr. Vance?" Eleanor speaks for the first time. Her voice is soft, but it carries a quiet dignity. "My husband, Robert, passed 2 years ago. He was a veteran." Thompson waves a dismissive hand, a flick of the wrist that erases a man's entire life and service. "Yes, yes, they all were. And I'm sure he was a fine man. But that has nothing to do with paying your debts, does it, Eleanor?" He uses her first name like a weapon, stripping her of her age, her dignity, her identity. He is making her small. "We have no debts, sir," Eleanor says, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Our home has been paid for since 1978. Robert built half of it himself." Mr. Sterling, the developer's lawyer, smirks. "Your Honor, the documents clearly show a home equity line of credit taken out 5 years ago, which is now in default. The paperwork is impeccable." He slides a thick binder across the table. Thompson doesn't even look at it. Impeccable paperwork. Imagine that he leans forward, resting his chin on his steepled fingers, and directs his full, corrosive attention onto Eleanor. "Now, Auntie," he says, the word dripping with false sweetness, "sometimes when we get older, our memories can play tricks on us. It's very common. You sign a paper here, a paper there, you forget. It happens." Eleanor's back straightens. The slight stoop in her shoulders seems to vanish. "My memory is quite fine, sir. As is my signature. The one on that document is not mine." "A forgery, you claim?" Thompson's voice is a theatrical gasp of disbelief. "A conspiracy by a multi-billion-dollar corporation to steal one little house? My goodness, it sounds like a movie." He turns to the court reporter. "Let the record show that the defendant appears confused." Sarah Jenkins finally finds her voice, however small. "Objection, Your Honor. My client is not confused. She is the victim of predatory lending and fraud." Thompson's eyes snap to Sarah. The temperature in the room drops 20 degrees. "Objection," he repeats, savoring the word. "Counselor, you are in my courtroom. You are here on the taxpayer's dime, defending a woman who is clearly wasting the court's valuable time with fantastical stories. Another word out of you that isn't 'I'm sorry, Your Honor,' and I will have you sanctioned for incompetence. Do you understand me?" Sarah shrinks back, her face pale. "Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry." The words are a surrender. The ineffective ally has been neutralized. Eleanor Vance is now truly alone. Thompson turns his benevolent gaze back to her. "There, you see? All better now. Now, Eleanor, I am prepared to be very generous. I will grant a stay of eviction for 48 hours. That gives you 2 days to pack your things, your photographs, your little knickknacks, before the marshals arrive to remove you." "This is my home," Eleanor says, her voice low and trembling with a tightly controlled rage. "You cannot just give it away." "I can and I will," Thompson says with a smug finality. "I am the judge. That is what I do." He raises his gavel, the executioner's axe. Motion to dismiss is denied. The eviction will proceed as. The lien is predicated on a violation of the Truth in Lending Act, Section 1635, Eleanor says. The words are clear. Precise. They hang in the air, stunning the room into silence. Thompson lowers his gavel, an inch from the sounding block. He stares at her, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. "What did you just say?" "I said," Eleanor repeats, her voice gaining strength, "that the lien is invalid. It fails to provide the requisite 3-day notice of the right of rescission, a fact which renders the entire instrument voidable at the borrower's discretion. Furthermore, the interest rate charged constitutes usury under state law, Title 12, Chapter 4, Subsection C." Silence. A thick, profound silence. The court reporter's fingers freeze over her keys. Sarah Jenkins stares at her client, her mouth hanging open. Mr. Sterling's smirk has vanished, replaced by a look of genuine confusion. Judge Thompson's face darkens. The mask of board superiority is cracking. "And where did you hear that nonsense?" "On some late-night television commercial." He is trying to regain control, to push her back into the box he built for her. "I read it," Eleanor says simply. "In the law." A ripple of laughter, led by Thompson, breaks the tension. "You read it in the law," he mimics, his voice a cruel parody. "Well, I am the law here, old woman. And I say you are a confused, senile person making up stories to avoid the consequences of her actions." He is doubling down. His arrogance will not allow for any other possibility. He cannot conceive of a world where this small, elderly black woman knows more than he does. "I am going to do you a favor, Eleanor," he continues, his voice taking on a tone of paternalistic cruelty. "I am going to amend my order. I'm directing Adult Protective Services to evaluate you. A woman in your condition shouldn't be living alone. You could be a danger to yourself. We'll find you a nice, clean room in a state-run facility. They have scheduled activities. You'll like it there. And the state will take possession of your assets, including the house, to pay for your care. This is it. The raising of the stakes. He is not just taking her home. He is taking her life. Her freedom. Her very identity. Sarah Jenkins gasps, a tiny sound of horror. Eleanor Vance does not gasp. She does not cry. She goes still. A profound, terrifying stillness settles over her. The trembling in her hand stops. Her gaze, which had been pleading, hardens into something ancient and unyielding. It is the stillness of a gathering storm. My husband, Robert, she says, her voice now completely devoid of its earlier softness, fought in 2 wars for this country. He earned a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star. He believed in the promise of this nation. He believed that the words written by the founders were a shield for all of us. He believed that they were sacred. Thompson rolls his eyes. Oh, here we go. The patriotism speech. Spare me. Your husband's service is irrelevant. He probably couldn't even read the deed to the house he supposedly built. He has crossed the line. He has desecrated the memory of her husband. He has attacked her family, her legacy, her entire life. This is the moral event horizon. Eleanor Vance looks at Judge Marcus Thompson. She does not see a judge anymore. She sees a blasphemer standing at an altar, spitting on holy scripture. And in that moment, something inside her shifts. The victim recedes, and the avenger takes her place. For the record, Your Honor, she says, her voice now an icy blade, my husband held a master's degree in engineering from Cornell. He not only read the deed, he drew the blueprints. Thompson is about to retort, to deliver another crushing insult, when a sound echoes through the courtroom. Boom! Boom! The heavy oak doors at the back of the chamber have been thrown open. They slam against the walls with a sound like cannon fire, a dramatic interruption that shatters the judge's carefully controlled performance. Every head in the room whips around. Framed in the doorway are 2 figures. One is a tall, impeccably dressed man of Asian descent, his face calm and serious. The other is a woman in the crisp, authoritative uniform of a United States Marshal. They stride down the central aisle, their footsteps echoing like heartbeats in the suddenly silent room. The air crackles with a new, dangerous energy. Judge Thompson half rises from his chair, his face a mask of outrage. What is the meaning of this? This is a closed court. Bailiff, remove these people. The bailiff, a portly man used to bullying the defenseless, takes 1 step forward, then freezes as he sees the marshal's badge. He looks back at the judge, utterly helpless. The man in the suit does not stop. He walks directly to the defendant's table and stops beside Eleanor Vance. He inclines his head slightly, a gesture of profound respect. Dr. Vance, he says, his voice clear and strong. I apologize for my delay. The traffic from the Capitol was worse than anticipated. Dr. Vance. The title hangs in the air, a bomb that has just been armed. Judge Thompson stares, his mind struggling to process what is happening. Doctor? Who are you? And who is this woman? The man turns to face the bench. His eyes are cold, hard chips of obsidian. My name is David Chen, he says. And I am the Attorney General for this state. The power dynamic in the room does not just shift. It shatters. It inverts. It explodes. The blood drains from Judge Thompson's face, leaving behind a pasty, grey canvas of fear. He collapses back into his chair, his mouth opening and closing like a fish pulled from water. The arrogant king is suddenly a naked, sputtering fool on a crumbling throne. Attorney General, he stammers. And this, David Chen continues, placing a protective hand on Eleanor's shoulder, is Dr. Eleanor Vance. And you, sir, are in a great deal of trouble. He turns to a stunned Sarah Jenkins. Counselor, I will be taking over from here. Consider me lead counsel for the defense. Sarah just nods, sinking into her chair, looking as if she might faint. Mr. Sterling, the developer's slick lawyer, is frantically gathering his papers, trying to become invisible. But there is no hiding. The spotlight has swung around, and it is now blindingly fixed on the man on the bench. "Your Honor," Eleanor Vance says, and the honorific is now a weapon, dripping with sarcasm. "Before my counsel proceeds, I believe you were questioning my lucidity. My memory." She takes a step forward. She is no longer a small, frail old woman. She is a giant. She stands in the center of the courtroom, and she is its new center of gravity. Everything revolves around her. "You seem to be under the impression that the law is merely what you say it is," she continues, her voice ringing with the clarity of a cathedral bell. "A whim. A tool for your personal enrichment and amusement. But the law has roots. It has a foundation. Perhaps you've forgotten it. Allow me to remind you." She closes her eyes for a brief second. And then she begins. "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." She recites it from memory. Not just the preamble. Article 1, Section 1. "All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives." She moves through the sections, the clauses, her voice unwavering. She is not just reciting words. She is breathing life into them. She is summoning the very soul of the nation into this corrupt little room. Thompson stares, horrified. This is not happening. It cannot be happening. Article 1, Section 9, Eleanor's voice cuts through his panic. "The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended, unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it. No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed." She moves on to Article 2, defining the powers of the executive. Then Article 3, the judiciary. Article 3, Section 1, she says, her eyes locking onto Thompson's. "The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court, and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior." She pauses on the words good behavior. She lets them hang in the air, an indictment and a sentence all in one. Thompson begins to sweat. A single bead traces a path down his temple. Eleanor continues, relentless. She recites the Bill of Rights. Amendment I, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Her voice gains power with each word. Amendment 4, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects, against unreasonable searches and seizures, shall not be violated. Amendment V, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property, without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use, without just compensation. She points a trembling but steady finger at Mr. Sterling, then at the judge. Due process. Just compensation. Are those phrases familiar to you, gentlemen? Sterling looks like he wants the floor to swallow him whole. Thompson is shrinking in his chair, the black robe suddenly looking like a cheap shroud. Eleanor turns her attention back to the bench. And then there is the one that seems to give men like you the most trouble. The one you work so hard to forget. Her voice drops, becoming a resonant, powerful declaration. Amendment 14, Section 1, all persons born or naturalized in the United States, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property, without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. She falls silent. The recitation is over. The courtroom is as quiet as a tomb. No one breathes. Eleanor Vance has not just recited the Constitution. She has wielded it like a sword, cutting away the lies, the corruption, the filth, until only the raw, undeniable truth remains. She turns to the court reporter, whose fingers are now flying across the keys, capturing every sacred word. "Let the record show," Eleanor says, her voice ringing with an authority that eclipses everyone in the room, "that the defendant is not confused. The spell is broken." Attorney General David Chen steps forward. "Your Honor," he begins, and the words are pure acid, "I have here a motion to dismiss with prejudice, on the grounds of malicious prosecution and gross judicial misconduct." He places a document on the clerk's desk. "I also have," he continues, his voice like chipping ice, "a file compiled by my office's public integrity section over the last 6 months. It details a conspiracy between a sitting judge and a property developer to defraud elderly citizens of their homes." He places a second, much thicker binder next to the first. It lands with a heavy, damning thud. "It contains," Chen says, "transcripts of recorded phone calls. Financial records showing a series of untraceable payments from a shell corporation owned by Omnicorp to an offshore account in your name, Judge Thompson. And sworn affidavits from 3 of your former clerks, who are prepared to testify about your long-standing arrangement. Systematic. Methodical. The deconstruction of the lie is underway, and it is brutal." Mr. Sterling, the developer's lawyer, suddenly stands up. "Your Honor, on behalf of my client, we are immediately withdrawing our complaint against Mrs. Vance. There has been a terrible misunderstanding. He is a rat, not just leaving a sinking ship, but trying to set it on fire on his way out." "Sit down, Mr. Sterling," Chen commands, not even looking at him. "You aren't going anywhere. Your name appears in this file rather frequently as well." Sterling collapses back into his chair, his face the color of ash. The betrayal has begun. Thompson finally finds his voice, but it is not the confident boom of a king. It is the high-pitched shriek of a cornered animal. "This is an outrage. A political witch hunt. You have no authority in my courtroom, Chen. This is my domain. I am the judge here." He grabs his gavel, his last pathetic symbol of power, and starts banging it wildly. "Contempt. You are all in contempt of court. Bailiff, arrest this man. Arrest everyone." Section the antagonist shatters. The bailiff doesn't move. He is staring at the U.S. Marshal, who is now standing directly in front of the bench, her hand resting calmly on the grip of her sidearm. "Judge Thompson," the Marshal says, her voice flat and unimpressed. "It's over." "It's not over," he screams, spittle flying from his lips. "I'll have your jobs. I'll have all of your jobs. I know senators. I play golf with the governor." His composure is not just broken, it has been atomized. He is revealing his true, pathetic nature for all to see. The powerful man is just a spoiled child throwing a tantrum because someone finally took away his toys. David Chen looks up at the man on the bench with an expression of pure disgust. "Judge, you seem to be operating under a misapprehension. You believe your power comes from this room, from that robe. But that's not true. Judicial authority is granted by the people, based on a sacred trust that you will uphold the very laws Dr. Vance just so eloquently recited. You have not just broken that trust. You have defecated on it." Chen looks to the Marshal. "I believe you have something for the judge." The Marshal nods. She pulls a folded document from her pocket. "Marcus Thompson," she says, her voice ringing out in the silent room. "You are under arrest. I have here a federal warrant for your indictment on charges of racketeering, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and money laundering under the RICO Act." The final nail. It is not just a state investigation. It is federal. He is not just losing his job. He is losing his life. Thompson's shrieking stops. A choked, gurgling sound escapes his throat. He looks from the warrant to the Marshal, to Chen, and finally, to the small, elderly woman standing at the defendant's table. He looks at Eleanor Vance, and for the first time, he truly sees her. He sees the architect of his doom. "You," he whispers, his voice hoarse with disbelief. "This was you." Eleanor meets his gaze. Her expression is not one of triumph or glee. It is one of profound, weary sadness. "I didn't do this to you, Marcus," she says, her voice gentle again. "You did this to yourself. You, and hundreds of men like you, who believe that power is a license for cruelty. You mistake silence for weakness and poverty for stupidity. You built this house of cards yourself. I just supplied the gentle breeze of truth to knock it down." The marshal is already walking up the steps to the bench. Her partner moves to intercept a now sobbing Mr. Sterling. "Please stand, Mr. Thompson," the marshal orders. He doesn't move. He is frozen, staring into the abyss that has just opened up beneath him. "Take off the robe," the marshal says. This is the ultimate humiliation. The public stripping of his power, in his own kingdom, in front of the very people he terrorized. Slowly, his trembling hands go to the zipper. He pulls it down. The black robe, his shield of invincibility, slides from his shoulders and puddles at his feet, leaving him exposed. Underneath, he is just a man. A paunchy, sweating, terrified man in a rumpled suit. The marshal produces a pair of handcuffs. The click as they lock around his wrists echoes through the courtroom like a death knell. As they lead him away, a disgraced and broken man, he passes the defendant's table one last time. He looks at Eleanor, his eyes pleading, searching for an answer to the one question his arrogant mind cannot comprehend. "Why?" he croaks. "Why go to all this trouble for one little house?" Eleanor Vance looks him in the eye. This is the final word. "The house was never the point," she says, her voice clear and carrying to every corner of the room. "The point was you. I needed the world to see how men like you treat people like me when you think no one is watching." He has no answer. They lead him out of the courtroom, his kingdom, for the last time. The doors close behind him, and the reign of Judge Marcus Thompson is over. The fallout. It is not swift. It is a slow, grinding, and deeply satisfying demolition. Judge Marcus Thompson, stripped of his title and his dignity, refuses to cooperate. He believes, until the very end, that his connections will save him. He believes the system he served will protect its own. He is wrong. The evidence presented by Attorney General David Chen is overwhelming and irrefutable. The recorded calls are particularly damning, featuring Thompson laughing with the developer, Arthur Sterling, about the senile old biddy they were about to fleece. He tries to paint Eleanor Vance as a vindictive academic with a grudge. This backfires spectacularly. Dr. Eleanor Vance, it turns out, is not just some retired professor. She is a legend. She is the woman who helped draft the state's current constitution. She argued 2 landmark civil rights cases before the Supreme Court in the 1980s. She mentored 2 sitting senators, a half-dozen federal judges, and 1 very grateful state attorney general. When the press gets hold of the story, it becomes a national sensation. The grandmother who brought down a king. Thompson's powerful friends abandon him instantly. The governor he golfed with issues a statement condemning his appalling and criminal behavior. The senators he knew suddenly can't recall his name. His trial is a formality. He is found guilty on all counts. The sentencing judge looks down at the man who was once his colleague and delivers a blistering rebuke, quoting Dr. Vance's courtroom recitation of the 14th Amendment. Marcus Thompson is sentenced to 30 years in a federal penitentiary. No parole. His assets are seized. His pension is revoked. His name is scrubbed from the courthouse walls. His ruin is total. Absolute. Arthur Sterling, the developer, sings like a canary to save himself. He details a decade of bribery and corruption, implicating 2 city council members and a zoning commissioner. He still gets 10 years in prison, and Omnicorp is hit with a fine so massive it is forced into bankruptcy. The co-conspirators are rounded up. The city council members are recalled and indicted. The commissioner is arrested on his way to the airport with a suitcase full of cash. The entire corrupt ecosystem that flourished under Thompson's protection is uprooted and burned to the ground. The consequences for the villains are biblical in their scope. The rewards for the heroes are equally profound. Eleanor Vance becomes a symbol of righteous defiance. She is offered teaching positions at Harvard and Yale, but she politely declines. With the substantial settlement she receives from the class action lawsuit filed against the remnants of Omnicorp, she establishes the Robert Vance Foundation for Equal Justice. Its mission is simple: to provide top-tier legal representation to anyone facing the loss of their home due to fraud or corruption. Her first hire is Sarah Jenkins. The young public defender, shaken and inspired by the events she witnessed, blossoms under Dr. Vance's mentorship. She becomes a fierce, brilliant litigator, a dragon slayer in a sensible blazer. The systemic change is the most lasting victory. Attorney General David Chen, using the evidence uncovered in the Thompson investigation, launches a statewide review of every property forfeiture case from the last 20 years. The results are horrifying. They uncover a pattern of systemic, racially biased fraud targeting minority and elderly homeowners. Hundreds of cases are reopened. Dozens of wrongful evictions are overturned. Families who lost everything are given back their homes, their deeds cleared, and their lives restored. New laws are passed, named the Vance Protections, creating ironclad safeguards against predatory lending and judicial overreach. The small, corrupt kingdom of one judge is dismantled, and in its place, a foundation for real justice is built. 2 years later. The time jump brings us not to a grand courthouse or a university lecture hall, but to the basement of a church in Eleanor's neighborhood. The room is bright and clean, filled with folding tables, mismatched chairs, and the quiet hum of determined work. This is the headquarters of the Vance Foundation. Eleanor Vance sits at one of the tables. She is not lecturing. She is listening. Across from her sits a young couple, their faces etched with worry. They hold a stack of confusing legal documents. Eleanor is explaining the fine print, her voice calm and reassuring. Beside her, Sarah Jenkins is taking notes, occasionally interjecting with a sharp legal point. The frail, frightened woman from Judge Thompson's courtroom is gone forever. In her place is Dr. Vance, mentor, protector, and living embodiment of justice. She is no longer the defendant. She is the defense. Her new reality is not one of quiet retirement, but of renewed purpose. She has taken her private pain and forged it into a public shield for countless others. She is continuing her fight, not in the hallowed halls of power, but on the front lines, where the battle is most desperate. A young law student, a volunteer at the foundation, approaches the table hesitantly. "Dr. Vance? The reporter from the Times is here for your interview. The one about the second anniversary of the Thompson verdict." Eleanor smiles, a warm, genuine expression that lights up her entire face. "Tell her I'll be right there, dear. Let me just finish explaining the homestead exemption to Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez." She turns back to the couple, her focus absolute. Her work is not about glory or recognition. It is about the people. It has always been about the people. The moral of the story settles over the scene, as clear and undeniable as the Constitution she holds so dear. Arrogance is a prison of its own making. Power, when wielded without wisdom and compassion, will inevitably consume itself. And true strength is not found in a gavel or a robe, but in the quiet, unyielding courage of a single voice speaking the truth, no matter how small or frail that voice may seem. In the end, it was never about one house. It was about the foundation of the entire nation, and the promise that within its walls, no one, not even a king on a courtroom throne, is above the law.